Just a quick point of clarification. I do not oversee $2.5 million. Oh, there's my mic. I don't oversee it. That's totally not true. So you'll see what happens with it. But who here has an obsession or knows what I mean by obsession? I need interaction, so show me hands, show me movement. Okay, you know what I mean by obsession? I am obsessed with this question. I'm obsessed with how can we create a culture of sustainability. And specifically, I'm obsessed with this question in the context of a university. Now, in being obsessed, I've talked to a lot of people about it. Pretty much everybody. If you meet me later, I'd probably talk to you about it. And the most insightful response that I was directed to was by a former professor. It says, you know, you can't institutionalize a social experience on your own. Nor can you convince others, probably need this, nor can you convince others to have a particular experience the way you can convince them to adopt a behavior or belief. You must live it out together within community until it becomes a part of the way and how that community encounters the world. And now what I find really beautiful about this when considering how to create a culture of sustainability, it says, well, if you're trying to institutionalize it, you know, it's inherently a shared process. And not only that, it's inherently active, and so people have to be able to share it actively, and they have to be able to live it out. Live it out in their day-to-day, live it out in their shared experience together. And that changed a lot of things for me. Two challenges in addressing this in the context that I've come to know. This happens in most institutions, and I'm going to say that there's two major challenges. One is of community building, and one is of engagement. So by the challenge of community building is us versus them. And you all know this phenomenon. You know it in your personal lives, and you know it in your organizational lives. It's where you draw a line in the sand, or someone draws a line in the sand saying, I am we and you are them, and here are all the sets of rules that apply to me, and here are all the sets of rules that apply to you, and I'm willing to sacrifice my own convictions and values when addressing you, and vice versa. It's the same phenomenon that makes us antagonize the administration as students because they are fundamentally different. It's the same way that has one department antagonizing another by their version or way of finding truth. It's the same us versus them, and you all know it. I don't need to explain it. The second phenomenon, the challenge of engagement, is a lack of agency in education. And the easiest way I can explain it is following. I'm looking at a fellow School of Environment student in the audience right now, and I know that when we came in, you know, when our reasons for why we started in studying environment in universities, we had an idea of change. We said, okay, well, I want to be able to learn how to affect change in the world. Third year, fourth year rolls around, and most of us are planning a trip somewhere, and it's not because we want to go vacation, it's because we've forgotten why we were here. And you know, why is it that we feel so paralyzed? Most of us are like, I don't think I can affect change. What is it about the educational experiences that really, you know, prevented me from believing that I have agency anymore, especially that of all my peers? So what is it about the university that does that? And I came across this really interesting quote from Michael McGonigal in Planet U. And it said, you know, about 85 institutions in the Western world established by 1520 still exist in recognizable forms with similar functions and unbroken histories. Right? So you've got kings that have ruled, empires, monopolies, all come and gone, 85 institutions surviving 500 years, and 70 of them are universities? That's incredible resilience. You know, where does that resilience come from, and how is that maybe connected to our lack of agency? I started thinking about it, and, you know, Ken Robinson on education, and he says, you know, all the incentives in education today are set up to create more university professors. I'm like, okay, well, if the incentives are to create professors, and that's what's driving the institution's really resilient, is the same phenomenon also taking agency away from me? Let's see. Am I being led to become a professor? If I was, it'd probably be publication. A research-intensive university, publication is what leads to professorhood, so am I being prepared for that? Of my 29 courses that I have taken, 27 of the 29 have required essay or essay responses, and 26 of the 29 had citation and peer review reference requirements. I should be a machine at this stuff by now. What about interaction? What about engagement with the world? What about learning how to affect change, or methods that would help me learn how to affect change or live out affecting change? 2 of 29 provided an opportunity for me to focus my research in the province, and only 1 in 29 actually required me to directly talk to anybody in the real world. I could actually just hide in the database. I could actually just hide in the database on my web searches for everything. And of the work I produced, 74 essays, 73 are collecting dust. You want to know how many got more than just a grade? So I've never lived the change that I came into here to learn about. And so, yeah, most of us feel disempowered. And so these are the two things that you have to address that you can't create a culture of sustainability if you don't address those two things. So not only, what I'm going to talk to you about is this fund that was created, you also have to address agency and you have to address community building, because otherwise, are we really living out this culture of sustainability that we can aspire to? Anchoring the vision for why I like this idea of a culture of sustainability and the lived experience of everything that we do in creating the Sustainability Projects Fund, and that's what was motivating me. So what is the Sustainability Projects Fund? So a year ago or so, I was sitting in the provost's office negotiating the creation of this fund, and the basic idea was students in the administration match dollar for dollar into a fund. The fund's purpose is to create as many opportunities as possible for the entire community to actively engage in sustainability initiatives on campus and through their applied research. And so, I'm explaining this to him, and he says, Jonathan, I like the vision, everything, but I've got a $25 million operating deficit this year alone. Next year, too. Where do you propose that I get the administration's matching component, this dollar for dollar? I took a minute and said, well, Bill Clinton's coming in a couple days to get this honorary degree, right? He's like, yeah. Well, just give me like 2 minutes with him and I got this. I got it. Oh, don't worry. And he laughed and he laughed and he laughed. He didn't take it that seriously, and I was serious, but whatever. And the best thing ever happened. So the Clinton comes, and this is his speech, direct quote: "If the mission of this university," talking about McGill, "is to promote sustainability and widely shared prosperity, we have to find more ways to do this, so that every person feels as though he or she is an active participant in embracing the challenges of our time. It's incredibly empowering, and we have to find a way of actualizing." Now what's awesome about this is that in my first semester, my professor told me, Jonathan, when you're talking in a presentation, you got to establish credibility. So I'm not saying the former president's actually my backup, but it's just nice to know that he has a similar vision for what was going on. Look, I don't care at all about credibility. I really, really, really don't. It's just a funny way to frame it. What mattered was that the provost committed. And so then we were able to go to the students and say, are you going to match? Are you going to bring in your half? And it was incredibly successful. We passed with overwhelming majority, second highest voter turnout in our school's history for this stuff, and for good reason. Students saw we have a $2.5 million decision to make, and it's as simple as voting for this process. And I think they voted in the right direction. My backup sent me a letter. Presidents aren't allowed to send emails, apparently, so it was hand-signed and everything. He said, props, which was cool. So what's really important to notice is that, the next step was community, right? We got to make sure that the vision that we had was anchored in the lived experience of the community, so we had a community forum. And a lot of people showed up. It was a really great experience. It was packed. We provided free local beer, which might have had an impact on the outcome. But I think mostly people were really bought into it. And what was important to say was we've established this fund, and that's awesome. But now it's about implementing. And that's really the fruit of what we're after. And we got to make sure that the lived experience, the vision that we had is anchored out in every single step of this process, and that we're being super intentional about it. So what would that mean? One, the fund is available to anybody in the community. So anybody in our community can apply to this fund and take advantage of it. There's some agency for you. Number two is that it has to be consistent with the values that were motivating it: partnership, community building. So guess what? Students in the administration, 4 and 4, come together and form the working group that oversees the fund, not just me. And the idea here is consensus-based process with a parity committee of equal representation so that you don't get this us and them anymore. And what's really interesting about consensus is it forces us to consider the possibilities of all projects, not just what they've submitted. So that way it's not a yes or no granting agency. It says, oh, well, as a committee, we're leaning in this direction, but instead of fighting over it, why don't we send you a couple questions back and say, how can your project really create a culture of sustainability? Can you nurture learning? Can you nurture behavior change? Can you include an academic component to really make it comprehensive? And I think that's had a really good impact on the projects, and 20 have been approved. Now, to make this really tangible, I'd like to consider an example. 20 projects have been approved in the first 6 months. $400,000 is already on the ground. McGill feeding McGill is something that I think you can all connect to, and I spoke about it a while ago, and it really, really resonates. McGill had a farm on Mac campus. McGill has residences with dining halls with cafeterias. McGill has an agricultural faculty, and McGill has a plant science faculty department, not sure. Never before were they connected in such a way that you said, okay, well, you know, we could set our menu seasonally in advance, and that could inform the planting. The planting could then inform the growing and the distributing right back to our campus, where they consume it, educate the students about it, compost it, keep the soil, closed system. Best part is, it's not that big of a step to see, oh, academic opportunities at each and every step, right? And so then you've got curriculum and operations merging together and producing academic opportunities for the students in a real-world setting where you're affecting change, and you start to get an idea of what this culture of sustainability could look like. And this is what it looks like. And guess what? For any project, this is the model, right? Every step is intentional, it's sustainable, you've got every step contributing to academic development of the students. And the measure of success, how do we define success in the system? Are the students and professors excited to study it? Are the staff excited to run it? And best of all, you know, is the community proud to eat from it? And we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And this is the idea of what could be. It's an idea of potential. And I really think that this is a direction that all institutions could grow towards when addressing that question of how to create a culture of sustainability. This is a direction I see going forward. So take it back. How do we create this culture of sustainability? Well, it's clear. You got to live it out. You got to live it out together within community until it becomes a part of the way and how that community encounters the world. This last slide I was staring at last night for quite some time, and I want you to look at it. It's the most important slide of my presentation because it's your slide. And what it is I ask you the following question. In your community, what's a question that you want them to live out? What's a question that your community can live out actively together that can help create a culture or a social experience that is important to you? You can do it. 3-4 years ago, I had never stepped foot in a university in my life. And now I'm here, and it's inherently a shared process. It's been a shared discovery process. You can do it. This is your slide. Take it home with you for the rest of the day, the rest of the tomorrow, and all the other cheesy things I could say. Thank you very much.